through this anyway just for the soundbite.
Yeah, no, but I don't want to make it forced.
Well, we can. If there's bits we edit out in the middle anyway, we can just put that in.
Yeah, I'll add it through it.
But
how long ago did you watch Harold and Maude anyway? You watched it a while ago. I watched it today.
You say a while ago. I probably watched it like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, it was like a week and a half ago, wasn't it? I remember.
I must admit, the soundtrack was fucking phenomenal.
Cat Stevens
is
amazing.
Yeah, the soundtrack in it is probably the best
thing. I think
thing.
if that was made into an album, it'd probably be my favourite album of all time, just because it's what it represents to me. Because I've been watching it since I was 8. The first time I ever watched it, I was 8 years old.
Well, it's the same with me in Back to the Future. Like that's the reason I like that kind of music.
Yeah.
But I think the Harold and Maude soundtrack's like probably one of the best things about it.
Definitely, yeah.
For me, anyway, because I'm a big fan of that kind of music.
There's bits in it as well though that like it almost feels like it's music video-esque in that it's so overlaying with the story and the lyrics.
There's a lot of like
panning
shots in there with music over it where you think like that's come out straight from a music video.
And scenes that are driven away like into other scenes with the music as well like that.
It's probably saved this quality content for the podcast.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later anyway, won't we? Hello and welcome to the Movie Busters podcast. This week, like last week we did Back to the Future, which is Dave's favourite film, and this week is my favourite film, which is Harold and Maude. So it's a bit more out there, I guess, than Back to the Future. Back to the Future.
It's a lot less unknown, I'd say.
It is known as a cult film. Harold and Maude is.
Well, when you look at Back to the Future and Harold and Maude, I'd say more people have probably watched Back to the Future.
Definitely, yeah.
I think more people have probably watched your favourite film, which is next week.
Yeah, I think Harold and Maude got lost to obscurity a little bit because it came out around 1971, didn't it?
Yeah, it came out.
It doesn't necessarily look that old as well when I watched it. I don't think it looks.
It looks dated, but it doesn't look 70s.
No.
I'd say you'd probably say it's like 90s, maybe early 2000s.
I would have thought it had been filmed today and it'd been more period piece than it was anything else.
Yeah.
Because I think how it's filmed is quite now. It's quite a similar thing to obviously Wes Anderson, which we'll probably talk about a bit later on. Did you just want to explain why this is your favourite film? Because from mine and Dave's, yours is a very unique film to choose. Yeah.
So it's my dad's favourite film. Well, actually, he's got a few favourite films as well. So his favourite film is a French film called Jean de Florette, which is Gerard Depardieu. It's like a kind of Mice and Men-esque French film, and Harold and Maude is another one of his like top kind of 3. Basically, I can't remember what the third one is, but anyway, he put this on to me like when I was very young. Harold and Maude. It's quite weird when you look at like the content of the film. It's quite like there's a lot of like suggestive stuff in there for an 8-year-old to be watching. But then again, he showed it to me for like life affirming messages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like and that kind of stuff. And he kind of wanted to see what I thought of it as an 8-year-old, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, obviously, like as an 8-year-old, it's like, it's funny because he's committing suicide and stuff. Like it's very like not. It's kind of like an 8-year-old's kind of perception on it. It's going to be different to how it is now. And now I've rewatched it quite a few times. Like I think I'd say I'd watched it like 25 times.
Oh wow!
So I've watched it a lot of times, and I think initially when I watched it, it was I loved the soundtrack as a kid because it's so different to what I'd heard. Because like obviously as a kid, I don't think I really like watched all the films unless my dad like threw them onto me, and then from watching that. I kind of kept on watching it as I got older, kind of learned more about it as I learned more about my life and stuff like that. So it's kind of stuck with me, really. Jean de Florette's different because it's not something you rewatch every like 2 days because it's so like brutal of a story. But we won't talk about that because we're not talking about the Jean de Florette podcast. So
would you say like because this is your favourite film? Would you say you could watch it like again after watching it the first time?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would. Yeah, it's probably not in the same vein as Back to the Future, in that you can rewatch it and like what you were saying last week that you'd rewatch it when you're hungover or something like that. Or something.
Did I?
Was it something like that?
I was Adam Sandler, mate.
Okay, Adam Sandler. Well, either way, I think if I rewatch it, it's more of a case of me if I'm like homesick or something like that. It's more of a case of me rewatching because it reminds me of like watching it with my dad, and it's like I like the message in it and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's comforting.
I mean, speaking of viewing pleasure, when you revisit this film, do you watch it purely for the nostalgic value, or do you still see them heavy themes of life, death, what it's like to be happy?
There's a bit of both, really. There's nostalgia, but then you do see things which you didn't see before in the film. Like I don't know because you've obviously both seen it once, but in the film she actually says several times that it's all gonna be over after Saturday. So Saturday she's saying it's her 80th birthday. So she's already said to Harold that she's going to die after 80. She's decided.
She just mentioned that in the church as well, didn't she?
Yeah. So she's a kind of, you kind of notice, it explains a lot about her character, why she's doing the things she is, and why she's so suddenly into funerals and stuff, and how she met Harold, and all those kind of things. There is revisit value to the film because you do kind of pick up on new things, and yeah, I think it is definitely revisitable for both nostalgia and.
I mean, it's interesting as well because it's actually based on a book as well, isn't it? The novel.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Have you not read the novel though?
I've read a novel. I know it's the screenplay is Colin Higgins. Do you want to check it's a novel? I can't remember.
I think it is a novel because I remember reading about it today after. Because in the novel, it's quite heavily implied that she's got dementia.
Yeah.
She's actually she's suffering. She will suffer indefinitely until she dies anyway. So I think that's another reason for her to choose the way she does to go out of this world. And I'm quite annoyed with that. Like they took that out of the film because it adds a lot more weight to why she's doing what she's doing.
Okay, I see.
I mean, because she's very free spirited in the film, which I love throughout. I think also just to talk about Ruth Gordon. I think she deserved an Oscar nomination, if not to win it.
I watched Rosemary's Baby, which is another Ruth Gordon film. It's about 2 years before this, I think.
1968, and this is 1971. So
3 years.
3.
Yeah. Anyway, she basically plays the same character, but the same character in that she's free-willed and she's very kind of like, what's the kind of accent she has? It's New Jersey. Is it kind of New Jersey? Well, it is in Rosemary's Baby. Anyway, she's very like her kind of like the older kind of like neighbour who's very nosy kind of character.
Yeah, she's got a husband in that film as well who's also very similar.
Yeah, and anyway, she won an Oscar for Rosemary's Baby, I think.
Yes, she did. Yeah,
supporting role.
She should have won it again here. She's absolutely phenomenal.
But then in talking about that, it's quite funny is that Harold and Maude initially when it was released was completely like washed over, and everyone thought it was just too weird. And no one on release, no one kind of like took notice of it. Like Roger Ebert gave it 1 out of 4.
Which I find ridiculous.
His reasoning for giving it a 1 out of 4 was that while it had life-affirming kind of goals in the film, the weirdness of the two characters took away from the life-affirming like a message. Which is you can watch and see his point of view there, and that the characters are really, really weird. But then you look at that in the context of all the other characters, and like you think, well, hang on, all the characters that they're around, like Mrs. Chase and Harold's mum, she's really weird, but then you don't. But she's weird, but then she's a believable character because you see her in everyday life. So it's like, why can't these weird characters be normal people too? Why is it that these two protagonists are being thought of as weird?
There's also it's also I think it's the subjection of of opinion, isn't it? It depends how you were brought up.
I think
honestly, like not to intrude, in my opinion, I don't think anyone in that film's weird. I don't think anyone necessarily is weird. I think Harold is this meant to be this very troubled character. Yeah. But I just think he's going through this probably. I mean, it's implied his father died when he was quite young. He's made of money. He's got no friends. Yeah. It's not a huge sort of aspect of the film, but there's definitely that bit of depth there. So when I see this film, I don't necessarily see them as weird characters. If anything, I think that they're all just troubled in their own strange ways. Because
definitely, because you look at there's a scene where they're all kind of judging their relationship because obviously it becomes apparent to everybody that Harold and Maude are in a like romantic relationship for about 2 days before she inevitably kills herself. But there's a scene where it shows psychiatrist saying it's wrong, and it's got like a picture of Freud in the back.
Yeah, and then the army guy, Richard Nixon.
Yeah, and then the priest who's got a picture of the Pope in the back, and it's everyone's kind of got their troubles in those scenes, even though they're only on there for a couple of seconds, because you can tell that they're making their judgment on people based on things they've been taught, but they aren't making a judgment based on their own kind of conscience. They're making it on what they know. And
what they believe to be right,
and what they believe to be right in their own opinion.
I mean, have you seen any of Hal Ashby's previous work?
I've seen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying to the audience.
Sorry, you pointed at me.
Have you?
Dave's seeing things.
I'm gonna say no.
I've not seen anything. I'm honest.
I've seen Coming Home, which is one of our screenings, I think. Actually, it wasn't one of our screenings, but it's one of our recommended readings, or recommended viewings. I've seen The Last Detail, which is a Jack Nicholson film.
I just heard this coming out on Blu-ray as well very soon, which I might have to. We may screen at this at Film Society, I think.
They screened it for the cinematologist last year, so yeah, it's a good film.
And he also there's a really good film that I've been recommended called Being There.
Being There's brilliant.
Peter Sellers, which I've yet to see again, but I've heard extremely good things.
Being There, I gave a 4.5, which is
quite high. Yeah.
So it seems like you've watched quite a lot of Hal Ashby's.
Well, me and Dave haven't seen any Hal Ashby.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hal Ashby is dead now. He died I think it was 1988. Yeah. For a modern day director now, is there any comparisons with anyone you see? Or?
Well, you said earlier Wes Anderson, and I can probably see that. But I think a lot of you kind of watch his films, his filmography, and they're all different. I'd say that's one thing I'd say that's different to Wes Anderson is that, like, The Last Detail is probably the most similar of the ones I've seen of his to Harold and Maude, but even then it's not similar at all, because it's about sailors who are taking a guy who's what's the guy's name who plays
Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid's character, who's basically this troubled guy who's found himself in the Navy, and he's got this kind of impulsive nature to him, where he stole something, and he's been sent to like Navy prison, which is basically, like, if you don't know about Navy prisons, like really brutal and awful. He's been sent there because he stole 20 quid from like a charity box or something like that. So and he's been sent there for about 10 years or something like that to go to Navy prison for stealing 20 quid. So it's about their relationship of taking him to the prison themselves and learning about him, and it's all about kind of masculinity between these characters, this dynamic between the characters. And they're trying to kind of say, like, oh, we're these Navy guys and we're tough and stuff, and we're going to show you a good time, take you to like brothels and stuff like that. But it's all about humanity of the characters.
I mean, has humanity come up across Hal Ashby's filmography in general then?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because I would say that if we compare it to Wes Anderson's got that he has got generally a family, a tone or sort of genre, if you would say, throughout. So Wes Anderson, there's like Royal Tenenbaums. You look at Darjeeling Limited. So I think why I say Wes Anderson is compared to obviously Hal Ashby is Harold and Maude.
Because that's kind of comedy and stuff.
Yeah, because it has the same sort of. It reminds me of Rushmore a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Where you've got this character that no one's really on the same ideal
wavelength.
Yeah, and he just wants to revolt, but he wants to revolt in his own way. He's not really affecting anyone else's lives.
No.
But he's a nuisance to the people who surround him. But I mean, Dave, how would you compare?
What,
Harold and Maude now? Well, not Hal Ashby, but Harold and Maude. What would you see that now as? Because I see that as a Wes Anderson film now, which does take away from Hal Ashby's achievement. I'm not saying that it does in a way.
I think if we're looking at a sort of modern day film, I don't know. Are we talking about who sort of has the same sort of motif, same themes?
It's definitely difficult.
It's a difficult thing because, like, if you look at Hollywood, there's nothing really like Harold and Maude around anymore.
I don't think there's been around for a long time as well.
Probably since I don't even know.
I mean, could you name the closest thing to it that you've seen?
I'd say this is controversial, Ghost World, but Ghost World that we watched,
I think it has the same
quite similar
thematics.
Yeah.
Plug.
For like a film that's has been released and is on a similar kind of level to what Harold and Maude would be probably if it was released nowadays. I'd say Ghost World's close.
Ghost World's a good show.
I can see with the characters that you have.
Obviously, it's the older guy, the younger girl kind of.
I mean, I still think Rushmore, in my opinion.
I've never seen Rushmore, but I'd have to give that a go.
About that, how identity is so as well as he's in this private school which is called Rushmore. He's the title character played by Jason Schwartzman. It's not called Rushmore. There's about this feeling about identity, about where your place is in the world. I mean, his father is a hairdresser. He's actually Vincent Cassell's father. Yeah. In real life.
Nice.
And
I haven't seen Rushmore.
In the film, he every time he meets someone, he says, "Oh, my father's dead. His mother died of cancer a few years previous," but he always says that his father's dead as well. It's only until the end where he understands that identity and being who he wants to be is what will make him happy in his world. He now starts to introduce his father as my dad. This is a hairdresser. He becomes comfortable. And I think Harold.
I might have seen this actually.
Yeah, it's quite an old film. I think it's 19.
Was that one his first?
No, Bottle Rocket was his first.
It's one of his first.
And then Rushmore came after.
I think the themes that are in Harold and Maude have definitely not been sort of discussed or looked at in film in a long time. There's not really anyone.
What themes do you see then?
I think like basically what I see in it. Again, going back to the weird thing. The mother sort of pressuring him to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's very. You don't see that often now in the other way round. Usually it's the father and the daughter.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect I didn't really see. Yeah, that's interesting that you noted that. Yeah.
You also see like when he goes through on the sort of like the dates thing.
Yeah.
And it dates it. The film does date itself when she goes like, "I've signed you up on the computer dating." That is that's bad. I do like the storyline around it, the ending part of it. I really do like.
I think the ending's brilliant.
We have what do you mean the ending? Do you mean the because
spoilers?
Well, when you say the ending,
the spoilers already.
Clarify which part of the ending you're talking about.
I don't want to like sort of
the cliff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll explain your opinion on that because I think
we're not going to the ending yet.
Well, no, we can talk about if you're going to talk about the your reasoning.
Do you want me to talk about what I think about the ending? Because I've always seen it that it's Maude's died. She says, "Go out and love some more," and you kind of it's building up to him going to kill himself, which is what you kind of you thought he was going to do. You kind of wanted him to do, but then I kind of see it as he's killing off his former self and he's going out to live with the life lessons he's learned from talking to Maude, who's so free-willed and like happy with herself. She's happy that she's lived this life. She's gone, even though she's gone through Auschwitz and stuff like that, or presumed.
Yeah, as well. I noticed that the first time I saw it.
So she's it's kind of the presumed that she's gone through all that and she's lived a life and she's kind of just ready to kind of stop and be done with it. And she's just happy that she's lived a life and she's happy to celebrate that she
goes on her own terms. She
goes on her own terms, exactly.
I do agree with the dementia thing. If that is a real thing, that definitely would have been
heavily implied
even
in the
after. I think afterwards it would have been better to find out about that, not during. I think afterwards.
Because it would have had a lot more weight to her reasoning. I mean, how I see the ending is I'm in two minds because I really do agree with Rob because even his outlook, physically, his change of sort of clothes is a lot brighter.
Yeah, and he's there's picking up the song as well, so he's learned to play the instrument, he's learned to be happy.
So there's definitely that sort of inclination that he's changed. However, I do feel that the film should have gone out with some bottle in him not seeing anything like that. It's perfectly fine having a happy ending. But let's say, hypothetically, if we went over that cliff and he was in the car, I think that adds a lot more like emotional value to him not having a place in that world where everyone was trying to do things for him, pressure him into getting married, as you said, the going into the army. Finally, when he goes over that cliff, he goes out on what he wants to do, his own terms. He's finally got to decide.
Yeah, I see that, but then again, I think
it is it is very morbid after.
I think that takes away from what Harold and Maude is, though.
I understand that. It's because you can interpret it that way anyway.
I think that's an interesting interpretation. I do personally think that Maude, if that happened and then Maude knew about it, I think Harold would know that Maude wouldn't be happy that he's ended his life because she wants him to go out.
Yeah, definitely.
Go out and live his life and do what she maybe didn't do because she didn't have the right circumstances growing up.
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think. I do like the interpretation, but then again, I also look at it that
it's
Harold
probably not
Maude,
the intended interpretation. I must admit.
Yeah, Hal Ashby. I look at he was kind of known when he was active as a director. He was like a freedom fighter in his spare time, stuff like that. So he was very kind of similar to Maude's kind of character when she talks about going and doing protests and stuff like that. That's very, very much what Hal Ashby was passionate about. So I do see it in that he'd want to have a reassuring message at the end of that film. Yeah. I don't think he'd want people to think there's no hope.
Yeah.
I think he'd want the young people to think, well, we can do things for ourselves and we don't have to be bound by governmental regimes and all this kind of stuff that's going on, because it's released in a time of the Cold War and stuff like that and all that kind of fear. And I think it's definitely it's covering all bases there, really.
I think as an 8-year-old, if the ending was how Jack said it was, as an 8-year-old, do you reckon you would have enjoyed it as much?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think I would have.
Yeah, but you weren't 8 when you first watched it.
Fair enough.
It's talking about it now that you're 21.
Yeah.
He was 8 when he first watched it. And he fell in love with it.
If I'd have seen the film as I envisioned it with him going off the cliff, I would have seen it more as a fairy tale. I would have understood that perhaps this is a film and it is a fairy tale.
So maybe like a moral to the story is
because it does have a great moral value. The film does. I mean, you see throughout. You see his clothing changes. He talks a lot more when he sees Maude. There's so much depth to this film. I think that's credit to Al Ashby. I think that it's a beautiful film, and I think that it probably was best to be lost in time a little bit for me.
Do you reckon?
Because I would not have seen it as Rob would have. I would have seen it as a fairy tale and understood that it was a film. But when I'm 20 now and I see that, I see all the emotion and you know I saw the Auschwitz thing on her arm. You know, you get the implication that she has got dementia or she's going through something. You know, she's living a life to the free. You see it more and you appreciate life a lot more.
I think there's an intelligence to the film as well. I think
there's a great intelligence to the film. Yeah.
I think there's
underappreciated intelligence as well.
It's one of those films where it's show not tell necessarily as well.
Yeah,
There is telling parts where, especially like it's one of my favourite scenes actually in the film. I think it's probably my favourite scene is when they're saying what flowers they'd be, and Maude says, "Well, they were silly because all these flowers are different." When he says he wants to be like one of the white flowers because they're all the same, and she's like, "Well, actually, look at them. This one's smaller. This one's fatter. This one's got less petals." They're all kind of different, but the real sad thing is when people see themselves as all the same, and they aren't willing to see themselves as different, and that's the sad thing. And then it zooms out and it shows all the gravestones of all the different stories on the gravestones. While from a distance, they all look the same. On them, they've all got different stories on them, and I think that's so. While it does tell initially, it then shows as well with the graveyard scene and all that kind of stuff, and it does have the show and tell. But it is intelligent, and it does leave you as it's intelligent because it's what Hal Ashby wants. Is he wants you to think for yourself when you watch that film what you think after the film. Do you think, Harold's gone off and he's going to be a better person, or what do you think? It makes you make a judgment yourself about your life and whether you should be doing the same thing as Harold.
So would you say that this film is open to a great interpretation of what Harold is?
I think will do. I don't think it's necessarily open to too much interpretation, but then again, I think it is. I think it's more that you can either enjoy this film or you can really, really hate this film.
See, I agree to some extent, but I completely agree that I think this film's bookended. I don't think Hal Ashby intends for anyone else to interpret the story except for what he put on screen. So I think at the ending when Harold walks off, Harold is going to be a better person. There's no ifs or buts. Everything that's implied in the film is probably what really happened.
I would wonder as well is that probably it is. I think no, you said it, bookended. It is, but then again, it's bookended, but it's more of a case of yes, I like that message of the film, I enjoyed it, or I don't get it, and a lot of people don't get it. Like my dad has said, he said to me when I was 8. After I watched it for the first time, he asked me what it was about, and I said, "Oh, it's Harold. Harold's gone off to go and learn from the lessons of Maude and stuff." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's quite, I'm really glad that you kind of interpreted it like that. I've shown it to friends before, and they just didn't get it at all, and didn't know what it was about."
I definitely think it's one of those films where you have to sort of watch and concentrate on it.
No,
you'll miss something. I think.
I disagree though. I think if you're very careful, you'll miss the Auschwitz.
Yes, that's one frame, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's literally one frame.
But I think the general aspect of it is I think it's implied multiple times what the film is. I think if you went, say if I was watching it and the 45th minute came up and I left and I came back 10 minutes later, I don't think I would miss anything vital, but I would miss the character development between them both,
which is brilliant.
I think you'd miss the experience of the film. I think everything in there, especially like the army bit where he's sort of
the right hand man.
Yeah, the communist part and all that.
Yeah,
like, I just like that. I like the camaraderie.
You call me pig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, my favourite part of the film is the policeman, who's actually played by Tom Skerritt.
Is he?
Who was Viper in Top Gun, huge 80s star, went uncredited. That is one of the, and that's the moment where I was like, is it meant to be that she doesn't recognise him, or is she saying that as a joke? That was another implication of the the dementia aspect to me. I thought, actually, that was a bit off, but I felt that the comedy there is really well done as well. It's like, but that is credit to Ruth Gordon.
Yeah,
she's absolutely phenomenal in that scene. If I had to choose anyone as a bit, I would showcase that whole sequence when they first get stopped to when they come back and they get stopped again. That's my highlight of the film, definitely.
Ruth Gordon is something else. Like,
it's a shame that she retired from acting, didn't she, before Rosemary's Baby and came back?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because she kind of came back as an older star and then did quite a stint before she died. But she did keep going on quite a long time after Harold and Maude. She lived 14 years after this film.
Yeah.
85. We've sorted that out now. It was 85, and she but but she.
We had a bet earlier, and Rob lost.
Yeah, I thought she was 90 something.
You thought she was 99.
Yeah, you thought she was 98. Didn't you?
Yeah, I said she's 88 when she died.
Yeah,
well, I do sort of like. I'm quite annoyed by myself in the fact that I've never really seen much of Hal Ashby or I've seen much of Ruth Gordon, but I'm quite glad I went in
blind,
but then again, in looking at his whole filmography that we've just said about The Last Detail and being there, it is probably best going in with this film.
Definitely.
Because as much as it's dark at times with some subject matters, it's really light-hearted. It's a wonderful film to watch.
Yeah, it's a lovely film.
So because when I went into this, I didn't know anything. I thought it was going to be about him having a relationship with her and falling in love.
Yeah,
which to some degree it is.
To some degree it is.
But I thought they were going to be a couple through it.
For me, it's more him falling in love with life.
Well, Maude is a visual metaphor of life, isn't she?
That's what I can interpret it as. Yeah. So it's not that you should be looking at it as it's this 20-year-old guy with this 80-year-old woman. It's this 20-year-old guy who's falling in love with life and learning that actually. Yeah, I can kind of do this kind of thing.
I mean, I hate to be trivial, and I know we do this. We like to be quite, critical assessment of this, but 1971 is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have thought that maybe someone would have come along again, not necessarily a Hollywood system, but someone would have come again to sort of revisit it, because it is an old film. It is probably in time for.
I hate talking about this. I really hate talking about remakes. Like. This isn't as bad for me. This is how, by the way, how you feel right now about us remaking. That's how I felt when you guys started.
Yeah, this is bad because I see it.
In retrospect, I wish we wouldn't have talked about recasting Back to the Future, but this to me is prime for something.
Yeah,
I would enjoy to see something like that.
This is more likely to be remade than Back to the Future is, but I wouldn't want this to be remade as much as like. I'm very against Back to the Future being remade. I'm not as strongly against this being remade. It would be nice to see it remade.
I'm quite against it because I kind of see it.
It's your favourite film though.
But I also see it as it's been released in a time period where it's so critical, like the 70s with Cold War and all that. I kind of see it as this is the perfect kind of timeline for it to be made. And if it was remade, I wouldn't want it to be. I would want them to change it a lot. So it's while they could call it Harold and Maude, that's fine. I would want them to change it a lot to be more contextual to modern day. And I don't see them doing that at all.
I think you could do that, but I think that should have been done 16 years ago. I think if it was done just before the millennium and you had John Hughes revisit it, who did obviously The Breakfast Club, Uncle Buck, and you could have had that great sort of Macaulay Culkin character player, I think you could have really had something. But again, now I just don't think it's in that era where it's needed, because I think you have it now, but you have it regurgitated as something else. There's Harold and Maude. It's been released every other 5 years. It's just not Harold and Maude. There's a lot of different films where coming of age stories are vital. But I mean, this for one is a very unique tale.
Definitely. Other thing I worry about is who plays Ruth Gordon. Right.
You see, I think if we went in the 90s, you'd obviously have Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
But I mean, Maggie Smith could play Ruth Gordon.
I can see it, but then again, I'm so in love with her accent in the film that I think it would. I couldn't see her in the same breath. I just couldn't see it. Like, I couldn't see Maude as English. I couldn't at all.
No, if we Americanised it.
Yeah.
What about Dame Judi Dench would be great, because you need that small, vulnerable, lovely, bubbly woman. Judi Dench is perfect.
I don't know about that. If you're talking in the 90s.
No, I'm talking about now, really, for Judi Dench.
I don't see Judi Dench in that role.
I do. I think she'd be lovely.
I see her as M, and I can't see it.
That's what I see it as. Yeah. I see M and I see Death.
I mean, the more I think about it, I'm really annoyed that Ruth Gordon never got any. I know she got acknowledgement for the role, obviously, because
Rob said at the start when this came out, it was objectified.
This is the first time I've ever seen this film. I didn't know anything about it, and even I can see that she's phenomenal in this film.
Yeah. Same.
She's so good.
I'm pretty sure Roger Ebert says in his review it's so unfortunate that Ruth Gordon got lost in this film. As in to say, it's so unfortunate that Ruth Gordon was involved in this project because it was shit, basically. But then that's so unfortunate because Roger Ebert is obviously. I mean, wrong.
Film's subjective. I mean, you can't argue with his opinion, but I think it's hard to disagree that the film is a good film. It's very hard to disagree that Ruth Gordon is not phenomenal in this film. I mean, it's probably one of my favourite performances I've seen in the last 100 films I've seen. I think she's phenomenal in it. Yeah. And that's, coming from watching Linda statement. Blair as Regan, McNeady and The Exorcist.
Let's not talk about her, please.
I mean, she's fabulous. And I mean, even at the end when she says the heartbreaking thing where, I ate her,
Yeah.
I've already done. I had the pills, and he's in the. And,
what a lovely way to go out.
Yeah.
What a lovely way to say farewell.
And he screams, and we edit. The edits, the cut to the scream, and then you have the intercut between him in the hospital waiting room, waiting for the inevitable news, and him driving off. On this road or this path that he doesn't know. He's driving erratically. I mean, the editing is really
fantastic at the end, isn't it?
Really well done.
Yeah,
it's another highlight that the film doesn't probably get enough recognition for as well.
It's the editing, yeah, definitely. Like definitely with the sequences at the end, the sequences leading up to the end as well. The different hierarchy people, if you can call them that, ranting to him about his relationship with Maude. I think it's interesting. We should talk about maybe the screenwriter because he died very young. He died when he was about 44.
This is Carl Higgins, is it?
Colin Higgins.
Collins.
Yeah. So Colin Higgins, he this is his first film straight out of film school. Like it was his first screenplay. And
what start?
Yeah, it was basically his thesis for UCLA screenwriting program.
Which he went to UCLA with Paul Schrader.
Oh, the writer of Taxi Driver.
Yep.
Not the director of The Canyons because that film doesn't exist.
He's also
what was salty about it.
What else did he do? Paul Schrader.
Yeah, that's right.
Paul Schrader directed the Dominion prequel to The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
That's what we were talking about yesterday.
Weird how we keep on going back to The Exorcist, isn't it? Might be able to do a podcast on it.
Anyway, I didn't sleep.
Colin Higgins, this was his. He wanted to direct this film.
Okay.
And he took it to I think whatever studio it was. It was Warner.
No, it's Paramount.
And Paramount said no after he said he sent him like a test footage, and he gave it to Hal Ashby. But I listened to an interview with Colin Higgins. He did like a how we'd have like guest lectures and stuff. He did a guest lecture at university. I'm assuming it was UCLA, to be honest. And basically he talks about how his kind of he probably read the book and he had ideas for it. But his big idea for the film was because he had it came from the opening shot. The opening shot where it's tracking his feet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like he wanted to have this kind of joke in a way, like dark humour joke that you tracking his feet, you don't know what he's doing, and then you see his feet hanging, and he's committed suicide. Then he kind of thought about it. Well, how can I make that funny? Because it's not really funny. So he kind of thought, well, what if someone comes in and is completely lackadaisical about it? So his mother comes in and says,
sorry to interrupt, but when I first saw that, I was like, something's not right here. That's weird. I felt really like
it sets the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah, the tone set there is really difficult for me to watch. I was like, I don't understand this. I found it very difficult for my
What's the thing?
To understand.
When we were talking about, because you said like you wanted to do a podcast, Howard Maude. You said, "Do you want me to tell you what it's about and stuff?" I was like, "No, I want to go in completely blind."
Yeah.
So when that started, I was like, "Well, this is a bit."
Did you have a shock then when you watched it? Because I did. I was like, the juxtaposition between them two things were difficult for me to even like acknowledge.
I suppose this is very funny, Harold.
I think it's a very well made film, like shot wise. Like the tracking on that is really good.
Like I said, but through the writing of that, it's like you said,
he wrote
the
it
image
for that,
as well. The two things collide together really well. Like you said, it's very well made.
But it is tragic though. Colin Higgins, I think he wrote something else, but like only one other thing, and it wasn't anywhere near as successful. I've forgotten what it's called. But either way, he died very young.
He died of AIDS.
He died of AIDS, yeah. So it's quite like a massive shame because he was obviously a very talented writer. But then again, I think
did he die young? Sorry, I don't think he died young. Did
he? 44. That's fairly
mid-age.
young.
Yeah, mid-age. It's halfway through your life, pretty much.
He died at 47.
47.
Yeah,
Rob, you look like a mug.
Well,
again, yeah.
I haven't got Jack's memory powers, so we'll get to that.
I mean, because when I see this film, it is difficult to sort of pinpoint because obviously a film is a collective ideas, isn't it? It's a writer, the producer, it comes together. But I must admit, I would have been very interested to see, Colin Higgins' interpretation of the whole idea of the direction, because I think Al Ashby brings that warmth and that approach to it,
humanity.
But there is definitely the writing as a strong suit. I mean, even the conversations between Harold and Maude, they're wonderfully. I mean, again, that is how it's delivered to the actors, Ruth Gordon and Bud Cort, sorry.
Yeah, he's a very odd fellow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the writing is very strong. I mean, it's another thing where that didn't get picked up for its writing, but I would have much preferred Ruth Gordon to have won an Oscar rather than.
Interesting point for casting. Originally, Hal Ashby wanted Elton John to play Harold.
Well, apparently they wanted Jack Nicholson as someone. I think I've just made that up.
Yeah, so I could see Jack Nicholson being the army guy.
No, they wanted Jack Nicholson in Rosemary's Baby, but apparently Robin Polanski thought he was too sinister looking. But I mean, Bud Cort, I mean, he's actually in Life Aquatic Sisu, a Wes Anderson film. That's how I came to
This is why you always...
to the Wes Anderson thing, but me and Dave spoke earlier off mic, and off the microphone.
Sound like Richard Nixon.
Oh yeah, turn the microphones off, boys. I don't know what accent
off the record.
But we were speaking about Bud Cort in that film, and I find him rather sickly to watch because he looks 14. He's pale like Johnny Depp in everything. He's pale white. He speaks like he's 25, and he has the body of a 30-year-old. So that makes me have a strange relationship watching that because he doesn't look right in that film. Obviously, that's fault of his own.
It's intentional.
Yeah, I mean, but it's very off key to watch something like that because something doesn't look right there to me.
I think the paleness goes with his fascination of death, though.
Have you noticed as well? He becomes more. He brings more colour into his face, especially towards the finale when he was with his Maude. When she breaks that heavy news to him, his face is full of colour.
Yeah,
it becomes quite olive toned, from if I imagine right.
Yeah,
but Bud Cort was the one who didn't really do anything after.
I suppose so. Yeah, he's still working today. He's still working as an actor. Well, it's interesting because he wanted Randy Quaid's part in Last Detail, and Ashby was like, "Look, I'm sorry. Like I know that we had to deal with you and Harold and Maude, and around this time Harold and Maude didn't do very well anyway. So it's a big.
How big's the gap of time between them two films?
2 years. I think.
It was 73 Last Detail.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm probably wrong because I seem to be wrong on everything today, but yeah, it was.
Not... Oh, Jack's got that face.
Jack's got that smug face.
What is it, Jack?
I don't know. I think it is 1975.
I think it.
But I think
it's 73. I think it is.
Oh god, mate! If
I'm wrong again.
Third time.
No, I think he's right.
We can't put this on the internet if you're.
He's right. I know he is. Okay. I was just
making me feel uneasy.
1973. Yeah.
Yes.
Being there's 1973.
Everybody gets one.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry to move on from Bud Cort, but I mean, I'm just talking about you're talking about Hal Ashby in the 70s. It is a shame that Hal Ashby was so prominent in the 70s because for me, the person who owned the 70s was Francis Ford Coppola.
He is someone who disappeared in the New Hollywood.
Yeah.
In a New Hollywood kind of group.
But it's a shame because his films would represent a great deal of that New Hollywood system.
It is a shame because he was very much embroiled in all that, in that kind of political film.
Yeah.
Being there is very political.
Last Detail is very political.
Last Detail is very
political. Harold and Maude.
I'm thinking about, when I said the Last Detail is probably his most similar film to Harold and Maude, I've kind of rethought about that now and think the Last Detail is probably more similar, but in a different kind of context.
You said that at the beginning.
Yeah. Being there is.
No, sorry, no.
I said Last Detail was more similar.
Sorry, I was getting this.
Being there, Peter Sellers plays a...
Don't ruin this film for me. I'm not going
to spoil anything. He plays a guy who's presumably he's got learning difficulties, and it's kind of like a Forrest Gump kind of plot line where he kind of gets through by just being charming.
Okay.
But it's the way he's kind of interacting with the world is very similar to Harold and Maude's interactions with the world, like how they're strange, but then again within that world that has been created, not really that strange. Whereas in Being There, the world, he's kind of deemed as strange, and you're kind of trying to place him into that world, and that's what the film's about, and it's very, very good.
Okay.
But I'd definitely recommend it being there. It's fantastic.
Well,
I can't really give too much away from it.
Like I was saying, that I do think that Ashby was lost in that 70s thing, because if you look at
Yeah.
Coppola, you can't not deny that he owned the 70s. I mean, you've got the two Godfathers, you've got The Conversation, and you've got the Apocalypse Now.
I think the 70s just generally is just packed in it, really.
Well, I mean, but you look at that and you look at then Hal Ashby's career. The films we've highlighted between both them directors are so different on a parallel world. It's unreal. I mean,
it's a shame as well because they've been more appreciated nowadays rather than they are back then. Like you look at it, that probably around that time, Last Detail and The Being now be more popular than Harold and Maude is. But then you look at it now, people watch. Like for me, I only watched Being There, The Last Detail, and what's the one I've watched? Coming Home, because I've seen Harold and Maude, and that's the only reason I watched them is because it's Hal Ashby, and I like Hal Ashby.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it is. I think he kind of got lost in a way because he started off the 70s and got shunned in a way, and then he's had two films basically in the 70s which are standouts, and that's about it. And nowhere near on the Godfather kind of level, are they? Like for big hitter. In a way, it's the films you might have heard of if you're interested in film.
They're very minute in scale, I would say, but they've probably got just as much heart, especially Harold and Maude.
Yeah, definitely, I'd say so. It's the smaller stories with big hearts.
I mean, just to go through the last steps of the podcast. I'm not annoyed that I waited this long to view it.
I'm actually quite happy I watched it.
Yeah.
This as a 21-year-old bloke.
Yeah.
As I don't think I would have appreciated as much. I was saying earlier to Rob off mic again, Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
When Rob was growing up watching
Tricky
these.
Dick.
I grew up watching like Predator and like Rambo, Commando, those sort of things. So I grew up on like cheesy action films, which is why I'm in love with films like Police Academy and stuff like that. I love those types of films.
And Lethal Weapon.
But I wouldn't say that's cheesy.
It's weird as well because I'm watching those films nowadays for the first time.
But you're probably not
get introduced.
You're probably not appreciating them as much as I appreciate Harold and Maude, though.
Yeah, I think it's different though. I think I do when we watched Predator, I definitely appreciated Predator. Like enjoyed it. I don't think
I'd say Harold and Maude's a better made film than Predator.
But then again, it's not two films you can compare, is it?
Yeah, the very unique films to that.
Again, like the two things I like about Predator and that's the soundtrack in both of them. I think Harold and Maude soundtrack is amazing.
I think have we gone into the soundtrack?
We
spoke about Cat Stevens a little bit.
Were we talking about it at the start, or were we talking about it before? It's all kind of blended in.
No, we definitely spoke about it.
No, I don't think so. I think we did that at the start.
No, we spoke about it.
Just to say.
Either way, Cat Stevens, brilliant.
Yeah, I think it must have been one of the first few films that really had a soundtrack on that level of one man going through it all. I mean, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, maybe. Yeah. Maybe one before it, but this is probably the most notable I can imagine.
For me as well, I can how I say I watched a film and it gives me like if I'm homesick, it's kind of nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
I can just if I didn't have access to the film at some point, I could have the music on my iPod or something like that. I could just listen to the music and it would put me in that same level because it's just making me feel how I felt when I watched Harold and Maude.
Well, if anything, I think it adds a lot more to the film. I think if you take the soundtrack out, I think Harold and Maude would still be good. But I think with that soundtrack,
I think it increases to it.
Yeah, it adds that value to it, definitely.
It's like the cherry on top, innit?
Yeah. Rob was saying earlier that with the music in it, it always has like sort of like a music video aspect to it, with the panning shots, like like when they're driving on the bridge and it pans. Yeah. And the music goes. It's quite. Yeah. Music video.
It drives the plot. Like sometimes when you say like a film is like a music video, it's a bad thing, but then you look at
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. Then again, you look at films like Swissami Man, which came out recently, which is actually directed by music video directors. Yeah, and you can kind of it's like sometimes it might be a bad thing, but in this it does drive the plot. It drives the visuals. It drives the feeling of even the lyrics are just
especially when the ambulance comes to the hospital and Maude's holding onto Harold's hand. That musical cue there was excellently done. I mean, I would have loved to have seen maybe David Bowie add some songs to that soundtrack to listen to sort of a re-edited David Bowie version, but that's taking nothing away from Cat Stevens.
Then again, I think when he wanted to cast Elton John into the film, he was originally thinking he wanted Elton John to do.
Is this Hal Ashby or the writer? Did you say?
Yeah, Hal Ashby.
Okay.
Hal Ashby. I think he originally wanted Elton John to do the soundtrack as well, which I think could have been good, but then again, you don't know because you never see it. But then again, I've seen it with Cat Stevens, and then I can't see it in any other way now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult to look at it with that context, but the way it drives the plot, like even the lyrics are so like instrumental to how the feeling is. Like you be me, I'll be you.
It has that very strong dimension,
yeah.
Doesn't it? I mean, looking back at all the films we've done yet on the Movie Busters, how far would you rate this up the chain then?
Well, for me it's a top because it's my favourite film, but it's different.
Yeah. It's one of the best we've done so far because of just the sheer enjoyment I had with the film.
Yeah.
Going into it, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna bore me."
Yeah,
but
I thought that
there's just something.
It's so well paced. It's so well paced.
I thought I was gonna come in there and be like, I hated it.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I wasn't gonna do that because it's Rob's favourite film. I would have had to have been truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've recently started Letterboxd. I peer pressured into it. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd.
I would give it 5.
Would you?
And that's saying something.
That makes me really happy.
I've only seen 77 5-star films, and I've done over 2,000.
Well, I gave most of Hitchcock's films 4 stars, so you should be pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does want me to look at Hal Ashby's career.
I think I'm
Being There is fantastic. I think we should do a podcast
there
about that.
What was the other one you said? The Last Detail.
Yeah.
Last Detail.
I mean, it's interesting, but we've not done a film yet by the same actor or director, have we?
Yeah,
Steve Buscemi, we did like 4.
Yeah.
No,
Steve Buscemi, we did like the Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
Ghost
that's
World.
True.
We did Predator. No, not Predator. Sorry.
God.
Oh God. Steve Buscemi in Predator. He was in another one.
He's in The Big Lebowski.
He's in Tarantino films.
He's in Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs, that's it, yeah.
He's in the Big... No, what else is he in? Ghost World. What else is he in?
I think it's just 3, but either way.
The ones we've done.
We did about... I think all 3 of those were in a row as well, so it's...
Yeah.
Every film we've done was a Steve Buscemi film, but... Yeah, in terms of directors, I don't think we've done anything the same.
Well, we did a Fincher one.
We did a Fincher one.
We did Fincher himself, though. We did talk about the films that we
talked about all of his films in one podcast, didn't we? So.
I mean, the next one we'll do that, we'll probably do a little bit of an older actor. I think we should definitely do an actor.
I'd like to do something like a Bruce Willis.
Bruce Gordon.
I'd like to do Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin, yeah.
I'd like to do Buster Keaton then.
Buster Keaton.
Well, but we're talking about diverse careers. Chaplin, that career, which was at peak, just spiraled down. I mean, everyone got... I mean, that's another podcast.
Well, as soon as like talking became a thing in movies, Buster Keaton's career went down.
Well, Charlie Chaplin actually paid for him to live his life out. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
No, Chaplin... that's another issue.
Yeah, we won't talk about the silent era.
But I mean, Ashby is one of the directors where I feel like I'm going to fall in love with his filmography.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that with
if it's
Paul
like
Thomas
this,
I tell you what, this is going to be quite controversial. I know you won't agree.
Controversial alarm.
And much as Hal and Maude reminded me of Wes Anderson's aesthetic, I'm going to say the modern day Hal Ashby is Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
it just screams at me.
Oh, yeah, I really do see that now. Like not necessarily
the
humanity,
use of colour, I mean,
the characters as well.
Last detail,
characters
being there, and the
I'll give you that actually. Yeah.
Coming Home, I think you should definitely. This is kind of almost changing the topic, but not really because we're talking about Hal Ashby now.
Continue.
Watch Coming Home. It's brilliant. But that's completely different to Harold and Maude. Like it's very based in Vietnam kind of story, and it's what's the name? Lady who played Margaret Thatcher in
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. It's got Meryl Streep in quite a young role.
Is it pre-Deer Hunter 1978 or not?
I might be getting mixed up with Deer Hunter actually, but it's Coming Home's good. Yeah,
because the Deer Hunter is in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's I think. Yeah. Anyway, it's this is a very similar kind of story to Deer Hunter. I do keep getting those mixed up as well. But Coming Home is that kind of story. It's about a guy who has come back and he's having to deal with coming back from the war and people interact with him.
Who else does it star?
Oh, I can't remember.
That's Robert De Niro.
Yeah, I think it's got that De Niro guy in it.
I'll quickly Google.
That's about as much as I've got to say. I mean,
I think just going back to that Paul Thomas Anderson Boogie Nights thing. It's the tracking shot in it as well, the starting part.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
the only thing that's in my mind at the minute. Yeah. I think that's one of my favourite scenes ever.
I mean,
just that one shot going around in Boogie Nights.
Hal Ashby. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson was very influenced by Robert Altman, who did Network. But I haven't seen much of Robert Altman's work except for, I believe, because Robert Altman did...
With Jane Fonda.
It was Jane Fonda, not Meryl Streep.
Yeah, I got confused.
That's right, mate.
Deer Hunter.
Well, just saying that Robert Altman did... Because I get Robert Altman and Sidney Lumet, very similar directors. Robert Altman did because Sidney Lumet did Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon, but it's
Network.
Robert Altman did Network, but Robert Altman did 12 Angry Men.
Did you Charlie Wilson's War or something like that?
Yeah, that one must have been the last film.
Yeah.
But I mean, Proud Maude, I'm so glad I watched it.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, Rob's is like, we had this discussion in the Ghost World episode. Is Harold and Maude would not be necessarily a film I would go out and watch, nor would I buy it.
Yeah.
But for this community, for us to choose that film, I'm quite glad Rob chose it.
I think for me, like Dave was saying, I grew up on different films to you guys, so my kind of perception on films I watched when I was younger is different, and therefore a lot of the films I've seen you won't have seen, a lot of films you've seen I won't have seen.
I've seen a lot more films than you've ever seen.
Yeah, no, definitely, but like,
all right, mate.
But the kinds of films you've seen are a lot different still.
I am
like,
calm.
You've seen
quite a lot of beat blocks.
Like you say, you've never seen a Hitchcock film. You've never seen. Like,
don't say this on fucking camera.
He's never seen a Hitchcock film.
I've never seen an Alfred Hitchcock film. I've never seen. I have seen a Woody Allen film. That's I tell a lie.
You've seen one.
Yeah,
have you?
No,
I've seen loads of Woody Allen films.
Yeah.
I saw.
You've seen at least two.
Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Oh yeah,
Midnight in Paris. Arswipe.
Ants.
Small Time Crooks.
An ant.
This isn't directed by him, but
No, he's in it.
Yeah.
But it's basically a Woody Allen film, isn't it? Because
Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Any film with Woody Allen
as a protagonist, really good. I really like that.
Any film with Woody Allen as a protagonist is a Woody Allen film, really.
Well, I mean, that's it then for this episode of the Movie Busters, Harold and Maude.
I think so. Yeah. I think
if you like movies,
covered old grounds.
I like movies.
What are you talking about now?
Yeah,
what are you talking about now?
Sorry, I had an Exorcist flashback.
Well, next week will be one of my choices for the podcast.
Buckle in for that one.
Yeah,
The Matrix.
Yeah, The Matrix by the
someone's gonna get stabbed.
Lily and Lana Wachowski.
Probably me.
Well, thanks very much for watching.
Listening. You didn't watch it.
Yeah, listening, but they watched the YouTube video.
Well, it's not much of a video.
What are you getting at, Dave? Just end it.
Okay.
End it.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.
Jack's a dictator.
Bye.
I didn't want to do this.